Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 6th monthly web workshop on Fluke Connect. Today's topic is getting started with the Fluke Connect web app. I will be providing you with an overview of the Fluke Connect web app along with 2 hands-on demonstrations. My name is Chaun Carda. I am a Tier 2 technical support engineer and the Fluke lead. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. The session will be recorded. Phones will be muted. Type questions at any time. Please limit questions to the topic of the workshop, and questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So, our topic overview or agenda for today, I will start by providing you with a Fluke Connect overview, a very high-level explanation of Fluke Connect. Next, I will show you how to create a Fluke Connect account in the web app. Then, I will provide you with the Fluke Connect web app overview, which will include viewing measurements, assets, work orders, and teams. And finally, I will answer any questions during the question and answer section at the end of the presentation. So our first section is a quick high-level Fluke Connect overview. I just want to cover a few basic facts about Fluke Connect for anyone that may be new to the software. Fluke Connect works with over 80 different tools in 11 different categories, including digital multimeters, clamp meters, installation testers, vibration meters, scope meters, process meters, thermometers, insulation testers, infrared cameras, power loggers, and power quality monitors. The easiest way to tell if a tool will work with Fluke Connect software is if it has the letters FC, that's Frank Charlie, in the model name. So the 376 FC clamp meter, 1664 FC installation tester, and T3000 FC temperature model all would be Fluke Connect enabled. And the software is available in 73 countries. One other important note, the Fluke Connect software is 100% free, so please give it a try if you haven't done so already. So next, I want to cover a high-level overview of how Fluke Connect stores your data. Let's say you have an intermittent blower motor problem with a rooftop HVAC package unit. So you've grabbed your 376 FC clamp meter to help diagnose the issue, and you connect it to the blower motor. The 376 FC communicates the readings from the tool to the Fluke Connect mobile app via Bluetooth. If the cell phone is out of range of a cell signal or a Wi-Fi signal, the data will be stored on the phone until it reconnects to a cell signal or Wi-Fi signal. Then the Fluke Connect mobile app will upload the readings to the Fluke Connect cloud where they are permanently stored. Users can then access their Fluke Connect data in the cloud via any web-enabled device, such as a web browser, the mobile app, or a desktop software. So here's what the Fluke Connect web app homepage looks like. At the top, you can see that we've got the toolbar next to the number 1. So at the toolbar, we've got dashboard, measurements, assets, work orders, team, export, and reports. And we'll be going over each one of those during the course of this presentation. Next to the number 2, you see we have a little question mark. This will take you to a web page with previous web workshop videos, how-to articles, and more. We frequently get asked where customers can access the previously recorded videos, and this is a great location. So if you log into the web app, you click on the question mark, it'll take you to the website that contains those previous recordings. Next to the number 3, you'll see a little head icon and then my demo account name, Riley Russell. If you click on this, this will bring up the profile options, and this is where you can change your password, set your temperature preference, Celsius versus Fahrenheit. Next to the number 4, we've got active sessions, and save measurements. Active sessions and save sessions both show a padlock because those are reserved for condition monitoring customers only, but the save measurements are available for everyone. Next to the number 5, we've got filter and sort options available. So customers may have thousands of measurements in their account that they're being saved on the Fluke Connect cloud. So it's important to be able to quickly access that information. So we provided you with filter and sort options that I'll review during the presentation today. And finally, next to the number 6, this is the main area of the screen, which is where you will see measurements, assets, work orders, what have you. And here you can see, in this case, we're on the measurements tab, so you're viewing a measurement. So the next section is how to create a Fluke Connect account. I'll show you how quickly and easily you can create a new account using the web app. So you want to open up a web browser to begin. Fluke prefers Chrome, Firefox, or Safari for web browser choices. And then next to the number 1, you'll see the website, connect.fluke.com. And you can either use connect.fluke.com or flukeconnect.com. Either website will take you to the home page here. So it's just sometimes easier to remember flukeconnect.com since that's what you're using, Fluke Connect. The next thing you want to do is next to the number 2 here, under the create new account section, you want to click the blue button that says sign up. That will take you to the new account screen. From here, you'll want to enter your, next to the number 3, you see first name and last name. You'll notice that last name is optional, but we do recommend that you enter your first name and last name because we have had customers who've forgotten their username, and it's easier for us to retrieve it if you provide your first name and last name to us. We can go into our database and search for your username for you if you've forgotten that information, or if you need to reset your password for any reason. So the next option down here, number 4, says email. Now, the reason why I've highlighted this is because this email address will become your Fluke Connect account username. So if you're using your Fluke Connect account for work, let's say you work at Boeing, you may in fact want to use your Boeing email address, so chaun.carda@boeing.com. If this is for personal use, you may want to use your Gmail or Hotmail account. Please keep in mind that we can no longer change your user ID. There's a workaround for it, but it's kind of complicated. So we like to make sure that you just take a few minutes, think about which email account you want to use for your Fluke Connect user ID, and then enter that information here. Next, you'll select a password. And then next, number 5, you need to select which country you reside in. Next to number 6, this is our marketing opt-in option. You can always opt in to begin with and then later unsubscribe if you like, if you feel you're getting too many marketing emails. And at the very bottom, next to number 7, we've got the yellow Create Account button. So once you've filled in all this information, you just need to click the yellow Create Account button to create your account. So here's an example of what that might look like. I've entered in, sample name, Greta Gold, gretagoldfc@gmail.com. That's going to be the email address and the user ID I use for all my Fluke Connect account activity. Then I've got the password option, the country where I reside, and last but not least, I would click the Create Account button next to the number 7. From there, I go to the registration confirmation screen. You'll see here it says, "Welcome to Fluke Connect. Your account has been created successfully." So that tells us that we have in fact created our Fluke Connect account. And now at this point, if we want to go in and log into our brand new Fluke Connect account, we can do that simply by clicking the yellow Return to Login button next to the big red arrow, number 8. So that takes us to the sign-in page next to the number 9. So we enter our brand new Fluke Connect email address, greta.goldfc@gmail.com, our password. It's important to note that this username and password will be used for all of your Fluke Connect activity. So whether you're using the web browser to log into your Fluke Connect account, the Fluke Connect mobile app, or the Fluke Connect desktop software, this will be your username and password for all Fluke Connect accounts. So once I click sign in, I'm now logged in. You can see next to the number 10 up here, this is the name I entered, my first name and last name, Greta Gold. It automatically creates a team called Greta's team. I don't have anyone on the team yet because my account's brand new, but you can see here it takes me automatically to the measurements tab, and I already have a couple of measurements in my account. Excuse me, we've had customers contact us because they're alarmed that their account has already been hacked after they've just created it, but that is not the case. These are simply sample measurements that we preload into every brand new account so that you can see what the measurements might look like. We also have some sample assets, a couple of sample assets that we preload. So there's no need to panic. We just provide you with some sample data so you get an idea of what your account might look like once you start adding your own data. The next section is the Fluke Connect web app overview, where I will highlight all of the features within the web app, including the profile options and 7 different tabs and what they are used for. So to begin, I will start by showing you the profile options available in the web app. There are 9 total, including the sign out option. So in order to access the profile options you see next to the number 1, you can either click on your name or you can click on the little head icon. Either one will work and it will pop up this profile options box for you. Now, the first thing I like to point out next to the number 2 in the big yellow box here is that this information tells me what type of license I'm using and how many days before that license will expire. So it says you are on a Fluke Connect Assets trial license and you have 273 days remaining on your license. This is a frequently asked question. We get this question in tech support often from customers. And if you log into your account and click on the profile option, you can answer the question for yourself. No need to reach out and contact support for that. The next option under profiles is manage subscription. So if you had a paid subscription, such as a Fluke Connect Assets account or a Fluke Connect Condition Monitoring account, you would be able to view that information here along with the expiration date. Next in profile options is settings. This is another frequently asked question. People want to know, how do they set the temperature unit for all of their readings, whether it be Celsius or Fahrenheit? This is where you need to go to set the temperature setting in your web app. So it will say all of your temperature readings, whether they're from infrared cameras or a T3000 temperature module. This is where you can determine how those readings are going to appear inside your account. Next in profile options is My Account. Here's where you would see your purchase history for any subscriptions you've paid for. Next in profile options is Notifications. So here's where you would see any alarm or system notifications. This is primarily used for Fluke Connect condition monitoring customers, so you probably won't see much activity here unless you're using one of those products. But you do have sort and filter options on the alarms and notifications. Just for reference, if you were using the Fluke Connect condition monitoring product, say the vibration product, this is what you might see. This is an above vibration alarm notification. So it's just alerting the customer to the fact that this particular alarm has gone off. This is the asset that's affected, mixer number 1, MCCDX, and this is the rating that has tripped the alarm, so that someone, maybe a technician or a manager, may want to look into this and take action on this. Next in profile options is activate product. So you can see that here next to the number 7. This again is an option for Fluke Connect condition monitoring customers, specifically those using our 3540 power monitor. They can activate their tool and software subscription using this option. Next in profile options is edit profile. That's next to number 8 here. So you'll see that all the fields that are in white are the fields that can be changed. So your first name, your last name, and your phone number are all of the fields here in the profile options that can be changed. You'll notice that my email address, because it's my user ID, cannot be changed, and my role as administrator also cannot be changed from this screen. So next in profile options is the change password option. And just like every other software package on the planet, you would click this option, enter your current password, enter your new password, re-enter your new password to confirm you've typed the correct password that you want to use, and then click done. And again, remember, this will reset your password for all of your Fluke Connect software, whether it's the web app, the Fluke Connect mobile app, or the Fluke Connect desktop app. All right, now we change our focus from the profile options to the tabs. Across the top of the web app next to the number 1 up here, you'll see that we've got 7 different tab options available: dashboard, measurements, assets, work orders, team, export, and reports. And while I've clicked on the dashboard tab, I'm actually still on the Measurements tab. That's because if you look very closely, you can see a tiny little yellow padlock next to the word Dashboard. This is because I do not have access to the Dashboard tab. Only Fluke Connect Condition Monitoring customers have access to the Dashboard tab. So since I'm logged in with a Assets Free Trial license, I do not have access to the Dashboard tab. But just for reference, if you were a Fluke Connect Condition Monitoring customer, this is what the Dashboard tab would look like. I like to show this just for reference. You'll see here that we can see that we've got a count for how many recent alarms we have. These are all of the assets that are currently using our condition monitoring products, whether it's the power monitor or the vibration sensors. So we're monitoring those so we can drill and view those graphs and the log activity for each one of those assets. Down here on the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see that I've got 13 total assets available, and these are categorized or sorted by asset health status. So you can see that I've got one asset that's good, one asset that's satisfactory, several more assets that are in the unsatisfactory category, and a handful or so that are in the unacceptable category, and a couple that are in the unassigned category. So it's just a quick overview of our asset health and where we stand. On the lower right-hand side of the screen, down here at the bottom, you'll see it's an asset health trend. So this indicates over different time periods, the amount of assets. So in the beginning, we had a lot of green assets that were in good health and very few that were in unacceptable health. But over the course of time, you can see that has changed, and now we have very few that are good and much more that are unacceptable. So that's something a manager may want to look into. Moving on, here is what the measurement tab looks like. At the top right, next to the number 1, you'll see we've got 3 different options available for our view: active session, save session, and save measurements. The first 2, active sessions and save sessions, are both for condition monitoring customers only. That's why they've got the little gold padlock or the little yellow padlock. And if you're noticing a trend, if you see a little yellow padlock, it means it's restricted access for paid subscribers only. That is the case. Oftentimes these are restricted access only available to condition monitoring customers, or they may be restricted access only available to paid Fluke Connect Assets customers. So after you've uploaded your tool measurements from your tool to the Fluke Connect mobile app, and the mobile app has synced to the Fluke Connect cloud, then all of those measurements are visible here in the Measurements tab. So you can see here that this is one of my measurements from my 376 FC clamp meter. It was taken on July 17th, 2020 at 3:41 p.m. in the afternoon. And you'll see that there's a scroll bar here, so I can scroll down and continue to view all of my other measurements that are available and accessible to me via the Fluke Connect cloud. Okay, we're still looking at the Measurements tab, but now we are focused on the various viewing options that are designed to help you find the measurements you need fast. When you have hundreds or thousands of measurements in your account, it's imperative that you can find what you're looking for quickly. So the first of these viewing options that we're going to look at is the filter option you see next to the number 2. So you can see it looks like a little funnel icon, and that's because it's going to narrow down the number of measurements you have available to you in your view. Right now we're viewing all of the measurements, but if we wanted to, we could say, I just want to view just the measurements. So that would exclude all of the thermal images. That would include any kind of measurement reading that was not from an infrared camera. If we selected just thermal images, the reverse would be true. All of our non-thermal image camera measurements would be gone, and we would only see the thermal images. If we selected power and energy, these are going to be readings from any one of our suite of power or energy loggers, like the 1736 FC, 1738 FC, 1746 FC, and so on. And last but not least, we have unassigned. And this will show us all of the assets all of the measurements that are currently unassigned to an asset. So here you can see it says assigned to asset. That's because this particular measurement has not yet been assigned to an asset. So maybe if my job as a technician, one of my responsibilities is to go through and make sure all of the measurements have been assigned to an asset, I can click on this checkbox option to quickly find which measurements I haven't assigned to an asset yet, and I can go through and click through those and assign those to assets. Okay, we're still looking at the measurements tab, but now we're focused on the sort option located next to the number 3 here. So our data is sorted by default by date, with the most recent appearing first. We assume most people want to look at their most recent data, but you do have the option of going back to look at the oldest information first if you choose to. Still on the measurements tab, but we're focused on the last filter option you see next to the number 4. So in this drop-down list box, you'll see different date ranges. So while this filter was by measurement type, whether it was a measurement or a power measurement or a thermal image, these are sorted based on date. So I can pick today. I want to see only the measurements I've taken from today, only the measurements from yesterday, the last 7 days, 30 days, 6 months, and a year, and so on. Now you also have the ability to select a custom date range. So maybe I just need to see the last measurements from the last 3 days. That's not an option on my list, but I could go ahead and enter in that date range to narrow the focus down to the past 3 days. This is extremely handy because maybe you do monthly inspection rounds, so you know you only need to view the last 30 days of measurements to assign them to assets, and we have an option that says last 30 days. Or maybe you just did 2 home inspections in the past week, so you know you only need to view the last 7 days of measurements to assign those to assets. So you've got an option here that says last 7 days. Okay, moving on. While we're still on the measurements tab, we are now focusing on the functionality available outside of viewing options. So we would use the filters and sort options to find the measurements we want to assign to an asset. And then once we found that particular measurement, we would use this option here next to number 1. It's got a little tiny icon that looks like a chain, and it says assign to asset. So we would simply click that option and it would bring up our assets tab where we could select our asset group and then the asset that we want to assign this measurement to. This is how we can go in and assign one single measurement to an asset. Now, maybe you're saying, well, I've got, 5 or 6 measurements that I've taken that all pertain to this one specific asset. I want to assign 5 measurements at one time. We can do that too. So if you want to assign 2 or more measurements to an asset, you simply need to click the checkbox in the upper left-hand corner of each one of the measurements. So here's one for our first 376 measurement. Here's one for our second 376 measurement. These are 2 different measurements. If you look at the date and timestamp, this was taken at 3:41 and this was taken at 3:15. I select both of those options, and once I do, the icons up here go from disabled to enabled, so they become a slightly darker color gray. And you'll see that next to the number 3, we've got the chain link icon that appears next to assigned to asset down here. And if I was in the software and I hovered over this, it would say assigned to asset. But this is how I can select assign to asset. It'll bring up my assets screen where I can find my asset group and my asset that I want to assign these 2 measurements to. So you can scroll through and select, up to 50 measurements if you want to assign all 50 measurements to a single asset at one time. Next is how to assign a single measurement to a work order. So again, we use our filters and sort options to find the measurement we want to assign to a work order. And then instead of clicking the assign to asset option, we select the option right below that that says assign to work order. And that icon is a little piece of paper with a chain on it. So you've got that option there. If you think, well, geez, that looks just like the assign to asset option, it certainly does. And that's exactly how it works. The same holds true for assigning more than one measurement to a work order. You simply need to click on the checkbox to select the measurements that you want to assign. And then instead of selecting the chain icon, you select the paper chain icon here next to the trash can, and that will assign multiple measurements to a single work order. So now let's see how to use profile options and measurements in the live software. So I will go back to the measurements tab here. And to begin with, we're going to start with the profile options. So if you remember, you access the profile options by clicking on either your name or the little head icon here, and then we get the pop-up. Remember, in the big yellow box at the top, it tells us what type of license we have. So I'm on the Fluke Connect Assets trial license, and how many days I have left in my license. So I have 266 days remaining in my Fluke Connect Assets trial license type. So next we're going to look at settings. This is another frequently asked question. We select our temperature unit for all of our temperature readings, all of our temperature measurement readings. Whatever is black is not selected, whatever is yellow is selected, and if you're ever confused or just want to confirm, you can just click on whichever one you want to select. Once you've done that, it's done. Next is the edit profile option. So here, remember I said that all the fields that are white are the ones that you can edit. So if I wanted to, I could change my name, change my first name, change my last name, or add a phone number if I haven't done that already. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. So we're going to click cancel on that. And next, we've got the change password option. Again, just like every software on the planet, you would enter your current password, enter your new password, re-enter your new password, and then click done. And this will in fact change your password for all Fluke Connect software. So the mobile app and the desktop app will also change passwords here, not just the web app. And last but not least, we've got the sign out option. I like to point this out because this is the correct and proper way to sign out of the web application. I know that a lot of people just click the X in the upper right hand corner and close the web browser down, but it's important for a clean exit to go ahead and click the sign out option, especially say if you're working with technical support and they say, please sign out of the application and sign back into the application. A lot of people will click the X and then reopen the web browser and go back in, but we prefer that you actually use the sign out option. Okay, next I'm going to cover the first tab everyone has access to, the measurement tab. Remember, this is where all of the measurements that you've taken from all of your tools, thermal imagers, multimeters, clamp meters, temperature sensors, are located. The data is automatically synced from your Fluke Connect mobile app to the Fluke Connect cloud, which is why we can now access it from the web browser. And as I scroll down, you can see all of the measurements appear here. They are currently sorted by date, with the newest appearing at the top. So you can see that today's date is September 23rd, and at 7:15 this morning, I took a temperature reading with my T3000 FC. I took another one a little bit earlier. If I scroll down, you can see I've got measurements from yesterday, September 22nd. I keep scrolling down. I've got more measurements from the 21st. And then it jumps back all the way back to July 17th. So there's a big gap between when I've taken measurements, 7/17 and 9/21. So I just like to show you that that's how you can scroll through all of your measurements. But if you have hundreds of measurements or thousands of measurements, like some of our customers do, you may want to be able to sort or filter those measurements. So if you click on the funnel icon, right now I'm viewing all of my measurements. So I've had my account since, say, my demo account since 2018. So I'm going to have a lot of measurements in here. Maybe I just want to see just the thermal images. So I want to get rid of all these plain old measurements. I just want to see the pretty pictures, right? So I'm going to click on the thermal image option, and now voila, all of the information that's currently displayed for me is just my thermal images. So I scroll to the very end of my account and I only have, say, 10 or so thermal images in my account. So that's basically it. So I was able to quickly filter what I was looking at using this little funnel icon. So if I go back, I'm back to my regular view. Here's the sort option I talked about earlier. It defaults to most recent first, but if I wanted to, I could sort based on oldest first. So you can see now my data has switched, and now the oldest measurement will be at the top, and that's dated July 10th, 2018. So maybe we want to go back, put everything back to the way it was. We want to go through, and now we want to filter based on date. Before we filtered based on measurement type, so now we're going to filter based on date. So maybe I just want to select all of the measurements I did today because I'm very efficient and I come back to my office and at the end of the day, I make sure all of my measurements that are unassigned are assigned. So for today, I only have 2 measurements. I took 2 T3000 FC readings. So one at 7:15 46 seconds and one at 7:15 and 58 seconds. So I can see here that this measurement has already been assigned to the asset called backroom boiler. So it's in the asset group called Plant 1, and the asset name itself is called Backroom Boiler. This, because I have the option to assign to an asset, is not currently assigned to any other assets or to an asset. So maybe I want to look at what measurements I took yesterday. So I select the yesterday option, and this is 9/22, which was yesterday. You can see there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got a total of 6 measurements, 2 289 multimeter measurements, a couple of 376 FC clamp meter measurements, and a couple of T3000 FC temperature readings. Now, last but not least, you've got other options here, 30 days, 6 months, 1 year as well, but I'd like to show you custom date. And here's where you can go in and select the date range. So maybe I want to go back to Sunday, and I want to say from 1 o'clock on Sunday to today at today's current time through the present. I click apply, and now it's only going to show me the information or measurements in that date range. So I scroll down, I've got 9/23, 9/22, I keep scrolling, I've got 9/21. So that's just none of the, if I get to the bottom here, you'll notice that none of the measurements from July are going to show because this is just within the past 3 or 4 days. Okay, one other thing I want to show you is how to assign a measurement to an asset. Just real quick, so this one has already been assigned, but if I wanted to take a current measurement that's unassigned, I simply click on the Assign to Asset option. That takes me to the asset page. I can go into the asset group that I want to assign the asset to. I can click, that's the asset name, Backroom Boiler. I click the Assign button. And now you can see the T3000 measurement from today, this morning, just like the one before it, has been assigned to the backroom boiler. So now we are going to go back to the presentation and cover some more areas before we finish up with another demo. Okay, next, here's what the Asset tab looks like. We had a brief preview of that in our demonstration that we just did. But if you click on the Assets tab, you'll see here at the top next to the number 1, we've got the ability to view our assets, either all of our assets at once, or just those assets that are currently being used with the condition monitoring products. So either all or condition monitoring. We don't have condition monitoring, so we're looking at the view for all. Next to the number 2, we've got the ability, if this is a drop-down list box that alternates between, assets and asset groups. So our customers have thousands of assets and hundreds of asset groups. So they may need to search for a specific asset or asset group, and they can do that by selecting whether they want to search the asset or asset group and entering the text here, and then clicking on the magnifying glass. Here you can see the asset groups. This is Plant 1, and these are the individual assets. I have to tell you, most customers I work with have thousands of assets and hundreds of asset groups, but they don't even need to use the search option because they know exactly where each asset is. It's crazy how they can keep track of it all, but they do. We've got some very impressive customers, but it's great to know that we have the search options available. Maybe if you're sitting in for someone who's on vacation who knows the asset list by heart and you don't, or you work in technical support and a customer tells you an asset name, you have the ability to go in and use this search option to search for it. So we're still looking at the Assets tab, but we're focused on the filter options available now. So remember, when we see the little funnel icon, we know that we have filter options available. So we can narrow down the list of what we're looking at. Here, we can choose to filter by asset type and or by asset status. So we can use both of these or just one of these. Right now, under asset type, we've got all different asset types selected, but maybe I just wanted to see only my assets that were boiler. I categorized as a boiler or a bus bar. We have 26 different system designated asset types. So we try to cover all the bases here, things like chillers and motors and fans and the most common different asset types that are available out there. And these are for asset status. So this is something that you categorize your asset as based on its asset health. So if it's in good condition, you would mark it as good, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, unacceptable, and unassigned. Maybe you haven't decided what the category of the health status is. So again, if you have thousands of assets like many of our customers do, these search and filter options can help you find the asset you're looking for fast. Okay, moving on. While we are still on the Assets tab, we are now focusing on the functionality available outside of viewing options. So maybe we just need to add an asset group or an asset. To add an asset group, you go over to the left-hand side of the screen where you see Asset Groups. And here you can see on my screenshot here, I've got one asset group called Plant 1. If I wanted to add a new asset group, I would click the plus sign. Whenever you see the plus sign in Fluke Connect software, it means add or create. So to add an asset group, I click the plus sign and I enter the name of the asset group I want to create. Now, I can also add an asset. These are my individual assets. These are the names of my assets: backroom boiler, chiller, compressor, fan, and motor. Not very specific, but if I wanted to add a new asset, again, I go over, I find the plus sign, I click on the plus sign, and I type in the name of my new asset. Now, asset groups work just like Windows File Manager, so you can have folders and subfolders, or in our case, it would be assets and sub-asset groups. So I can have Plant 1, and underneath Plant 1, if I wanted to, I could have multiple folders. So we work next to Boeing, and the Boeing Everett plant has 3 different production lines: the 747, the 767, and the 777. So I could have under Plant 1 as subcategories 747, 767, and 777 as a way to group my assets. One other feature I want to point out on the Assets tab is the ability to import your assets. If you have thousands of assets and want to add all of them to your Fluke Connect account, you do not need to manually enter them one by one. You can use the import template instead. So if you click the little icon next to the number 1, it looks like a piece of paper with an arrow. It's the middle icon between the plus and the other icon on the left here. If you click that icon, you'll be presented with this, the import asset directions. So here's a little flow chart of how it all works, and down below are the actual step-by-step instructions. You'll see the first instruction is to download the asset import template. So this is an Excel file that we provide you with that you need to use to enter all of your assets in. Your assets need to be in our specific template so that when you import the data into our software, it's formatted properly. But it's pretty cool. It's a quick and easy way to import thousands of your assets without having to create them one by one individually. So moving on, next, here is the work order tab. At the top right, you'll see 2 different viewing options, overview and work order list. And we're looking at the overview view. So next to the number 2, you'll see it says today's status summary. This is when I created this presentation, so the 17th. And you'll see that below we've got everything is categorized by status. So open work orders, in progress work orders, completed work orders, and closed work orders. You can see that I have 3 open work orders. So I clicked on the little down arrow to expand that to see what they look like. And here is the work order number, the work order title, who is currently assigned to the work order, the scheduled date for when the work order is going to be completed, and the priority level of the work order. So regular priority, high priority. You can also see down here at the bottom, next to the number 3, we've got work orders sorted by some additional categories. So overdue work orders, if I'm the manager or team lead, I might want to take a look at this and maybe get those assigned and taken care of. Unassigned work orders, also may want to assign that one for some future date, and then upcoming work orders. And over here on the right, next to the number 4, we've got latest updates. So just kind of a snapshot view of who's working on what, so I can have a general idea of where everybody's at. Next, on the work order screen, we've got the work order list view. So this is a little bit different perspective. Next to the number 2, you'll see right now it says I'm looking at all work orders, which is great. Again, if I'm a manager or team lead, I might want to be able to view everybody's work orders. But when I click on the drop-down list box here, I can toggle this to my work orders only, because I may be a team lead, but I probably also have work orders that I need to work myself. So I want to view those occasionally just to focus on that. Next to the number 3 is a filter option. And we have 2 ways of filtering. We can filter by status. So those would be closed, open, in progress, or completed work orders, or by priority, high, standard, and low. Next to the number 4, if we want to, we can use the search field here to type in any text, freeform text, and find that associated work order. So maybe I want to find all of my work orders associated with a specific asset, my AC unit. I could just type in the word AC and search for all related work orders. Next to number 5, we've got just basically all the detailed information about all the work orders. So we've got the work order number, the work order title, the type of work order, who it's assigned to, when it's scheduled for, when it was started, when it was completed, and what the priority is. Okay, moving on. While we're still on the work orders tab, we are now focusing on the functionality available outside of the viewing options. So maybe we just need to add a new work order. To add a new work order, you simply tap the new work order button next to the number 1, and that will open up the work order screen where we could go in and create a new work order. We also have a new work order button on the overview tab as well. Okay, moving on. Here's what the team tab looks like. This is another area where we get many questions. So let's start in the main area of the page next to the number 1. This is the current list of team members, and you can see their names, their usernames or email addresses. And next to the number 1 on the list, you can see an icon. That is the administrator icon that indicates that that user is the team administrator. So here are the people on the team. It's me, Riley Russell, my demo account, my teammate Travis Turner, and because I have the little icon, that indicates that I'm the administrator on the team, so I'm the one that can send team invitations. I'm the one who can adjust or edit team licenses. I can add additional team administrators to my team. You can have more than one. It's generally a good idea to have more than one, in fact, if the one team administrator is on vacation. And the team names are listed here, and their license types are listed right next to their names. So I am using currently the assets free trial license. Travis Turner, my teammate, he is also on an assets free trial license. So next to the number 3, we have a standard search box. So if you needed to search for a specific team member, you could. Most of the teams I've worked with are under, say, five or so users, but we do have large scale corporate or enterprise accounts who have, several, 20, 15 or 20 different team members on their team. So they may need to use the search option. We also have the ability to filter. Again, you see the little funnel icon for filter, and this will enable you to filter based on license type. So if I wanted to, I can see all of my team members who currently have power condition monitoring, that type of license. And I could also see all of my team members who have asset-free trial. So it's got different varieties of license types. Next to the number 5, here you can see it's pending invitations. So next to my team, you can see I've got a number 2. That means I've got 2 users that are on my team. Next to the pending invitations, you can see we've also got 2. That means I've sent out 2 emails to people I want to include on my Fluke Connect team, but they have not yet clicked on the accept button in the email that I sent them. And finally, next to the number 6, you'll see the question mark. And the question mark here is great because it provides you with a little screenshot tutorial of all of the information that I've just covered in terms of, what the little icon means, how you can identify license information, and so on. It's something that our engineering team put together to assist customers such as yourself. So in 2 or 3 months, when you go to actually work on the team tab, if you don't remember everything I've said today, you can use the little question mark to go through that information. So we're still on the team tab, but now we're focusing on the functionality available outside of viewing options. So next to the number 1, you've got the blue invite button. If you click this, you will be presented with an email, and you can enter the email address of the username that you want to add to your team. And we recommend that when you do type this email up, it's a good idea to customize the text. Hey Joe, this is Chaun. Please accept my Fluke Connect team invitation, because otherwise, there's a lot of spam out there these days and a lot of phishing scams. So if someone that receives your standard generic template, they may think it's a scam. But if you put some custom information in there, they'll know that it's actually you and you are inviting them to join your Fluke Connect team. Next to the number 2 here, this is the actions that you can take for each one of the users. If I wanted to, I could click on the pencil icon and edit the license type for this particular user. The little page icon with the little arrow, that is what I would use if I wanted to transfer my administrator role to someone else on the team. I could also, because I am the administrator, I have access to go in and edit Travis's account. I could change his license type, or if Travis has left the company, I can delete him from my team. Okay, moving on, we are now on the Export tab. If you remember back to the Assets tab, we had the ability to import assets from you or your own system into Fluke Connect. This is the ability to export asset information from the Fluke Connect software into an Excel file for you to use in your own system. So you would simply, next to the number 1, you click the drop-down list and select Asset Export, and then it's going to present you with your asset screen. You go in and select the asset group and the assets you want to export the data from. And after you've selected all of those, you'll see this option appear. It's just the word export with a unique identifier. You can click this little blue download word, which is actually a link, and it will download that Excel file that was generated by our software to your local PC so that you can open up that data and look at it, and if need be, import it into your own particular system or your own reporting system. And now, last but not least, we are on the last tab, the Reports tab. So this is the asset-based report option. So you can create reports by assets here using the create report option next to the number 1. So if you just click the blue create report button, it'll give you the option to select asset reports, and then you can select which assets you want to report on. And once you've got that report created, like I created a report called Plant 1 Inspection Report dated August 2020, you could go in and email this, share this with someone else, or download this particular report. Now, let's see how to use assets, work orders, and teams in the actual web browser software. Okay, so before we covered measurements, now we're going to be moving on to our next tab, which is assets. Here, this is our ability to search for different assets. And like I said in the presentation, I can search on assets or asset groups. We'll start with asset groups. And if I type in the word plant, and then click the little magnifying glass over here, you'll see that I've got 3 different asset groups called Plant 1, Plant 2, and Plant 3. Maybe I want to search on an asset, so I go here and I change it from asset groups to assets, and I type in boiler. I click the little magnifying glass to execute the search. I've got 2 assets, one called front room boiler and one called back room boiler. You can see just below it in a light gray, that is the asset group where this asset resides. So the front room boiler and back room boiler are both in my asset group called Plant 1. If I wanted to, I could drill in and view this particular asset. So on back room boiler, I've taken a couple of readings with my clamp meter. So these are those readings. I can see that information here. I've also taken a couple of T3000 FC temperature readings, so you can see that information here. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the main assets tab. So I click the assets tab, and remember I said in order to add an asset group, you go over to the left where the asset groups are, you click on the plus sign, and you type in the name of the asset. So maybe I want to type in Boeing, let's do Boeing Everett Plant. So that's the new asset group that I'm creating. So it says add group, type in the name of the group, I click save. And you give the website a moment to refresh the data, and now you can see I've got a new asset group called Boeing Everett Plant. And now I'm currently viewing the assets in my new asset group, Boeing Everett Plant. And obviously it's a brand new group, so there are no assets there. So what I want to do is go over here to hover over the plus sign where it says add. I click the add button, and now you can see it says add asset. So I'm in the add asset screen, so I type in the name of my new Boeing fan. So maybe that's the name of the asset that I want to add. The asset ID field is just a free-form field where you can enter any type of unique identifier, whether it's a serial number or customers often have unique identifiers on their assets that they want to associate to the asset. So you can do that within our software. You don't have to, but you can. That's optional. Next, we do need to select an asset type. So these are the 26 different choices we have available: blower, boiler, breaker, bus bar, chiller, and so on. Now, because this is a fan, I'm going to select fan. The status update, the health status of the asset defaults to good to begin with. So we may want to leave it as good, or maybe we want to mark it as unsatisfactory. This particular fan is running hot, so I want to put in an explanation for why I'm changing the health status from good to unsatisfactory, so that when someone else comes in later at a later date, they can see, oh, Riley Russell logged in, and on September 23rd at 8:50 in the morning, she noted that the fan was running hot, which is why she changed the health status from good to unsatisfactory. You can add asset test points. So if you're monitoring multiple areas on an asset, different locations on the asset, you can have multiple test points so you can track data in different spots on the asset. Now, once we've entered in all of our information, we go back up to the top, we could click the blue Done button, and you'll be able to see that it's created. There's our new asset. It's in the Boeing Everett plant. The name of the asset's called Boeing Fan. So we go back to the Main Assets tab. We click on Boeing Everett plant, and there's our new asset, Boeing Fan. And you'll see it's no longer a green or healthy status, it's in unsatisfactory. Okay, next we'll take a quick look at work orders. So we'll start with the Overview tab. And again, we've got today's status. So we've got our work orders sorted by categories: open, in progress, completed, and closed. I can see I've got 3 work orders in the open status. So if I want to look at what those work orders are, I click on the drop-down list box. Here I can see the work order numbers, the titles, who it's assigned to, and so on. Down here again, I can show I've got 3 overdue work orders. So if I click the show button, I can see what those work orders are if I want to go in and take action on those. I also have my latest update information, so I can see who's doing what, who's assigned to each one of the work orders. If I go back up to the top and I click on work order list, remember I said that this was a toggle option. Right now I'm viewing all work orders. There's 3 different work orders, but if I toggle it to view just my work orders, you can see that I'm logged in as Riley, and now I can only see the work orders assigned to me. So I can go into all work orders to manage my team, and then go into my work orders to handle my work. So let's switch it back to all work orders. Remember, I also said we have the ability to filter, so we can filter on work order status, closed, open, in progress, and so on. We can also filter on priority. So you can use both of these or just one of these. So maybe I want to say I want to see all open work orders that are marked as a high priority. So you'll notice that our list went from 3 to 1 because this is an open work order and it's marked as high priority. So we'll reset the view here. There, now we've got all of them. Maybe we want to search for work orders. I work with a customer, he had 500 work orders in the system. I couldn't believe it. It was the most I'd ever seen. But obviously we have the capacity. But he might want to use the search option because he probably can't find everything he's looking for. So if he types in the words like AC, I can see that this work order contains the letters AC, monthly rooftop AC inspection. So I would be able to find quickly using the search text any of the work orders associated with those words. And last but not least, we've got the new work order button option here. So I could click on that to create a brand new work order if I wanted to. Next, we'll look at the team tab. So on the main part of the page, you can see the 2 team members here and the license types associated with those. If I click on pending invitations, you can see that these are the two email addresses that I've sent invites to and I haven't heard back. So I might want to reach out to those 2 users to contact them to ask them why they haven't responded. If I wanted to invite additional people to my team, I could click the blue invite button and you'll see this is an email screen. So I would enter the email address of the user ID for the person that I want to add to my Fluke Connect team. Here's where I would recommend creating a custom message because like I said, there's a lot of spam and phishing out there right now. So your coworker may not realize that this is a legit invitation. Once you've entered in all this information, you would click the send button. It knows there's no valid email address in there, so it won't let me send anything. But that's how you would go ahead and invite additional team members to your team. And again, I could edit the license type by clicking here to change this type of license. Oh, last but not least, the help icon. Don't want to forget that. So here it kind of gives you an overview of the new team page. This is how it functions. So goes through all the different pending invites, team list, admin indicator, if you want someone to leave the team. edit or remove a team member, license tags, licenses, so on. So, okay, that wraps up the second demonstration. So now back to the presentation. And that concludes the presentation portion of the 6th Fluke Connect workshop. So tomorrow you will all be receiving an email thanking you for attending. It will include a link to the recording of this presentation and a link to register for the next Fluke Connect workshop on Wednesday, October 28th. Also, at the conclusion of the session, you will be asked to provide feedback on the presentation in a short survey. So please take a moment to do so. I'd appreciate it. And I will be taking questions now. As a reminder, please keep questions to the topic we just covered. If you have other questions or your question doesn't get answered today, feel free to contact our technical support team at flukeconnectsupport@fluke.com. Again, that email address is flukeconnectsupport@fluke.com, or call them at 425-200-0080. And let me stop the recording.